Okay, lots of interesting people joining in. Great. It's great to have this kind of energy in the room. Please head to chat and put a little bit of an introduction, not just like, hi, I'm joining in. Tell us if you're a founder, if you're a builder, if you are an investor, if you are an ecosystem coordinator in some role. So tell us what you're doing, where you're joining from, and feel free to post your LinkedIn profile here, because that's a great way for everybody to connect with each other. With that, we'll go to a little bit of an introduction on today's event. So AI and Future of Work Summit, we are going to be talking about future of work. Work is going to change in a big way. It is already changing. It has already been changing, but the speed of change is the question here. Like, how fast will it change going forward with AI enabling it? And how are we going to be integrating ourselves as species? Because AI, we have created AI. So how are we going to live with a technology that we have created, which now has the potential to amplify all of us, all of our work? And what are the implications of these in the way we work today? So that is the topic today. Last month, we ran a topic, AI for Humanity. We are running these summits on a monthly basis to bring out issues, ideas, opportunities in the AI space and focus on these one at a time and build community around that. So with that in mind, Nordic AI for Future of Work Summit, we are here. It's powered by and brought to you by Nutty Ventures in combination with our ecosystem partners, Connect Sverige, Region East, Startup Grind, Founder Institute, Founders Live Nordics, and AI Institutet, with our primary partner for bringing this to you. A little bit of introduction about Nutty Ventures. So Nutty Ventures is Nordic's largest digital ecosystem. That's what we are building right now. AI Summits is part of that ecosystem, but we are at the background of a lot of work that happens in the Nordics. For example, Nutty Ventures holds Founder Institute Nordics license in Nordics. Founder Institute is a global accelerator with 9,000 portfolio companies. So we do a lot of stuff. We are also co-founders of Sweban, Swedish Business Angel Network, and Nutty Ventures focuses on large, inclusive, and ecosystem orientation. So that's our background. This is how our summits or our digital event footprints looks like. It's primarily founders, but also investors and VCs, advisors, corporate service providers, students, academia. Our 5 ecosystem partners for this event are Connect, Startup Grind, Founder Institute, Founders Live, and AI Institute. And with that, I'll request AI Institute to join me on stage. So, Hani, please welcome.
Thank you very much, Naimol, and hi, everyone. I feel really honored and privileged to do this collaboration. This is our second summit, but you have been doing this for a much longer while, right, Naimol? The theme today is the future of work, but the next theme will be the future of tech. But we're still having a human-centered ethos, so to say. So it's still AI for humanity that we focus on, and a 7-generation principle. So everything we do together with you guys is to make sure that we shape responsible intelligence. I look forward to see and hear the discussions today. Thank you.
And I'll take off the slide for a minute as well, Hani, so you can say in a big way, hello to the entire community.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Now you can see me. You just heard my voice before, but here I am. I'm really honored to have all of you here, and you're actually showing up here, and that you are having this discussion with all of us. And Naimol, I'm honored. Please take over the scene and tell us more.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hani, for being here. We are very happy to be running these summits in the AI summits in collaboration with AI Institute, and we love the way they work and the human-centered focus of AI. Purpose of any technology eventually is to help the human civilization. I think that's very important. With that, we'll go to our first panel. First of all, a warm welcome to AI for Future of Work Summit. We are very honored that you could take the time and be with us for this very important topic. Work is going to be going through a lot of evolution And we are going to be discussing that going forward. With that, I would request a short introduction from all of you. So I'll go in alphabetical order. Arfah, if you could give us an introduction about yourself, what you are doing in the AI space, in the workspace, and then we go around with other panelists. So Arfah, over to you. Arfah, do you hear us?
Sorry, it cut
Yeah.
off there for a second, literally the moment you were about to introduce me. Sorry, did you ask for an introduction?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, my name's Arfah. I'm the founder of Muslim Tech Fest and AI Compass Labs. My work tends to basically be at the intersection of helping underrepresented folks. So Muslim Tech Fest was set up about 4 years ago, but before that, I was running a Muslim community, anyways, for tech in 10 years, which has come up to 10 years. And I recently started to really get underrepresented organizations, folks upskilling in AI because in the past, even though these technologies are used to harm us, I also believe that actually we need to upskill in these technologies or we'll be left behind, let that be small businesses or people, etc. So that's kind of what my work tends to focus on.
Amazing, Arfah. Thank you so much. Love the focus on the word underrepresented. I think purpose of all technologies should be to become a seamless force of uh, leveling the ambition. So all of us should be able to operate at the level. So there should not be any like we should all be standing at a pedestal of equal height. So I think it's great that you bring that perspective in the house. With that, we move to Felicia.
Hello, my name is Felicia Fazzi, and I lead content and partnerships at Dagens Industry, focusing on AI, leadership, and the future of work. So I manage a lot of events within the AI. One of them is coming up soon. So through my work, I am consistently in dialogue with executives and companies navigating AI in practice, which gives me a close view of what is actually changing inside organizations right now. So a quick thing I can say is that in this year's research that I have done, this shows that Swedish companies are no longer primarily looking for inspiration about AI. They are more looking for decision support.
Very interesting perspectives. You come from a vast media background. You do events yourself, and then you work with in organizational context. And I think that's a very important aspect to explore how organizations are going to be adopting, integrating, and then flying with AI going forward, and how people are going in that direction. So brilliant to have you here with us. With that, we'll request Kristin to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, okay. In short, so I've been in the business space for over 20 years, mainly focusing on organizational and business performance in relation to people capabilities, and the last 10 years also technology. So I'm a nerd in regards to decision making and how we actually come to the word wisdom, which is like, I think we don't talk about that too much. So
very interesting that you bring that word up. Like, I think wisdom needs a lot of reflection, digestion of things which are coming our way, because you need to process things. So human ability to process, we'll probably bring that up when we talk about the organizational context with the speed of change and the technology, which is so much faster than us. How do we process things? So really interesting points to see in here. Paul, over to you. A quick introduction about you and your context. What are you doing?
Of course. Hi, Naimon and everybody else. I'm Paul Collins, an NHS psychiatrist in the UK. I currently work across a couple of roles clinically, one in Dorset and one in Gloucestershire. And alongside that, I run a company that I've set up called Flourish Psychiatry, which I've built as a vehicle for the kind of integrative work that sits outside of my NHS practice. My background is social anthropology originally, and I set up a social enterprise before studying medicine. And I just want to mention very briefly what I actually see in clinical practice is people who are cognitively overwhelmed. And I see that as nervous systems responding accurately to the conditions that they're under. And I think the question we're going to be looking at is pivotally to see how AI can either worsen that or ameliorate that. And I think fundamentally, my focus is on obviously for AI to improve that situation. Another relevant piece of background is that I'm also developing a clinical pilot in one of the teams to bring AI into the system, as it were, to help psychiatrists and mental health nurses work with AI.
Amazing. Great to have your background. So the word that I picked up was overwhelm. It's a very interesting word that you brought up. I was running a fireside chat. I do around 200 events every year yesterday. So in that event, we were discussing this, like it was a venture capital based event. Up to 3 years ago, if a venture capitalist was receiving 100 pitch decks, now they're receiving 500 pitch decks. 3 years ago, you could very clearly see differences in pitch deck because 80 of them will be crap because people will be struggling to write their pitch and 20 will be polished.
Yeah.
Now, if they're getting 500, 450 are polished because people are using. So our way of judging quality, like there is so much content now coming in and the content is almost at the same level. So how do we judge what's right, what's wrong? So really interesting point.
And interestingly, on that, Naimal, the same thing is happening in science generally. I was involved in a thread recently where somebody who runs a journal was basically saying they can't get peer reviewers anymore because the volume, that whole system that's relied on human understanding and goodwill is now just completely overwhelmed in a very similar way that you've just identified.
Amazing, because communication has two parts. There is a creator, there is a receiver. So AI has given huge amplification on the creator side. What happens on the reception side? Reception, the air is still the same size. So,
yeah.
It's a really interesting point over there. Reza, over to you. Quick background about yourself and what gets you interested in AI.
Yes, my name is Reza Moussavi. I'm Director General of the Swedish AI Association located in Gothenburg. And I've been for a couple of years now, 6-7 years at the association. But my background has been from childhood, a white hat hacker and developer myself. And I have been working in the field of AI, developing application and systems since 2012. So it was before TensorFlow and these new models that we see today. And at the association, we work inside Sweden with organizations and public sector and private sector to help them in leadership in digital transformation in the era of AI, how they can adopt their organization to use AI properly and not get affected negatively. And internationally, we work with other countries to establish their own AI association, a network and connection to Sweden and each other, from Ukraine to Mexico, South Africa, Kosovo, Austria, and many other countries we work together. We have developed a total governance framework for governing AI in public sector and private that we build everything that I explained on that ground.
Amazing. Great to have your competence in the room. You come from deep development expertise, you're running an association and you're running it globally. So it'll be great to learn from these three bubbles as we build on our discussion. Great to have the energy and so many different perspectives in our panel. Starting with our first question. And this is about employee value proposition. In your view, how must the employee value proposition change when work is increasingly shared with machines? What are we offering employees beyond a salary? So if you can raise hand, it makes my job much easier. Otherwise, just speak. Yes, Kristin.
All right. So in my view, the general value proposition is for you employee input, so to generate value output through work. and then of course the firm owns the intellectual property of your work. Okay, so what you produce belongs to the firm, and what you intrinsically learn is your own. Okay, so if you then put a machine in there, then you must secure that you not only capitalize on the work and knowledge and experience, but you also propose to increase that capability value output for the individual, and I think that's the key here, in order for that to happen, in order for the value proposition to hold, or, in order for you to create a new value proposition, is that you have to actually be able to define how is this individual's capability going to increase, is so that they actually will have a career onwards that will be valuable. And if you can't, you need to think about that. And that, of course, is connected to what Paul just said, the cognitive load, brain fry, descaling, and so forth, that could actually happen through the machine learning.
Okay. More perspectives on employee value proposition when work is increasingly shared with machines.
So maybe I can jump in.
Yes, please.
They say history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So we have seen, and I have been there when we had a similar situation in late 80s and during 90s, that there was and I was like on hype of my development and programming and learning as many programming languages as possible, developing a lot of different things. And I had the same question: if in future, when I'm grown up, anyone goes to work at all, because computers and robots looks like we do everything for us. And I experienced the big boom of software and later web applications and services coming out, IP communication, and later Internet of Things. It felt like everything will go automatic, online, computerized, but yet today we see it's not happening. We have microcomputers in hammers and power tools, but still we have people operating them and learning how to use them. In the field of AI, I think the paradigm shift that AI technology is bringing to the society and industry both will have the same result, but the problem might be the transition time. Maybe we will see we won't need employee to do few of the jobs that we need them today, but we can, as you mentioned before, do upskilling and retaining the employees to make sure after the transition, we are competent enough to continue in the same way and compete with others.
That's a very interesting point, the historical perspective that you brought in from 80s. And I think it's interesting because each technology, if we can take a metaphor, each technology is kind of a springboard. So we are here, then we come with the first springboard, and then we jump on it. And when we see the world in a very different way, we adapt, and then it becomes our new normal. Then comes another springboard. Then I think I'll just because that was a very interesting point, because you took it back in past, because this has happened before. And I think human beings have this amazing ability so we cannot predict how the springboard would look X years ahead. But once we are there, we have a capability to adapt. So that's a very interesting point. More thoughts on that?
If I
Yes,
may
Paul.
jump in? Yeah, okay.
Yes, Paul, and then Felicia, over to you. First, Paul, because I saw the hand first.
Thank you, Naimul. I think the key thing for me to recognize is that AI can potentially be a phase shift that's fundamentally different than other technologies that have come into play. I kind of have this insight of a different kind of singularity And I describe it as the reflective singularity rather than the computational singularity. Not to say that they are in competition, but to bring the attention of people into the ecosystem and into the human nervous system. And my sense is that AI amplifies whatever ecosystem or nervous system it enters in a relational dynamic. And the intervention point that I'm focusing on, and I would encourage and invite others to as well, is the ecosystem and the nervous system, not only the AI. And so to answer the question more specifically, it seems to me that as this evolves, that companies aren't going to compete on AI access as such, because I think that's going to be increasingly the water that we swim in, both cognitively and systemically. But I do think they'll need to compete on the ecosystem that lets their workforce stay regulated enough to use AI as a resource rather than being ground down by it. So rather than being fragmented. So if the offer is come work with our AI, but the conditions dismantle the person who was meant to direct it, then the EVP is hollow. But the real differentiator is whether the company has built the human ecosystem that makes AI genuinely usable, and the focus has to be on human flourishing. Because as we go into this phase shift, a lot of the people are looking at basically the point at which we become slaves or eradicated or replaced, because we're only seeing our identity as a tool, as a task fulfillment organism, and we're not that. We're much more holistic than that.
Okay. Very interesting, because you define it as a phase shift, and then you also say that the corporate or the company objective or intention is inherently positive, which is human flourishing. Great.
Well, it must be. Otherwise, if they want to attract the best human talent,
okay,
that's the point. I'm not naive. I know that fundamentally our economic structures are extractive and, have an exploitative element to it. But what I'm suggesting is that this phase shift generates a new opportunity, because what isn't in short supply anymore are high quality output.
Okay.
And quite potentially what isn't in short supply is even good ideas. This is the point that you made earlier. What's in short supply is the sustainability of humans being able to engage in recursive dialogue with AI and survive it without becoming fragmented and overwrought and have their nervous systems dissipate.
Okay,
right?
Very interesting point. Very interesting point. Felicia, you raise hand.
Yeah. So the question has so many layers because we are talking about how works will change in the future, and also I think that one very fundamental point is to talk about. Everybody's talking about how AI will change work, and change things, but we also need to talk about what we want it to do and how we want it to act, because we are the humans deciding what it's going to do for the future, actually. So I don't believe that AI will remove work, but it will change, of course, work and routines. Routine tasks will be automated, and the focus will be shifted to human strengths, of course. So when it comes to employee value proposition, I think that it needs to shift from perks to development, and as machines take more of the work, human value will no longer define by what we produce, but how we think, how we collaborate, and how we grow. and how we are going to make the company grow. So it's no longer about what you get, but who you become. And when it comes to what we offer the employees, I think that it's not just about the compensation in salary. So it needs to also be how do we give them the opportunity to learn faster than previous generations and to develop, and also the chance to work on meaningful things and problems, to have a meaning in the work that they are doing, and also to be part of something that's actually going to move things forward. So I think that companies that can't offer things like this will struggle to attract talent. And yeah, that's the thing.
Very interesting point, and very interesting layers to the answer that you provided, because human beings are not a dot. So we are living species. So I think that's if I go back to my early education, we had that Maslow's hierarchy of need, like how humans operate. So there are some basic needs, then there at the top is self-actualization. So we want to be feeling, we are eventually, all of us are creators. Like what has social media done to us, for example? It has made all of us creators. Like before social media, big media will be putting a headline, we will all be reading in front of a jar or something of cookies.
Exactly.
But so
Yeah.
we became creators. So the technology helped us flourish. But I also remember something from my early childhood. I read this article from Bertrand Russell on work. Work is such a fundamental piece of meaning for us. That's how we have been conditioned. Like
Exactly.
work drives a major part of how we see the world and what meaning is. I see a hand up, so I'll stop there. Christine, over to you.
I think we should just what Felicia is saying is she's talking about long term versus short term, which I think is a good question. Short term is the compensation, it makes you live a good life, etc. Long term is your knowledge, you're building a wisdom and the cognition and stuff. It's always been like that. It's just that with the efficiency being the core driver here, short term has become the primary object, and that's part of, what has to be addressed, because we know the consequences of this new technology. Right now, basically, organizations are study objects themselves, in regards to this. So we just need to be aware of that and make sure that what we're becoming is not being eradicated.
Amazing point. Let's move to our second question. And that's where I think that's also an interesting point to explore, and would love the expertise in the room to reflect on that. That one of the things AI does very well, like we have our limits as human beings, but AI is because the more power you give it, the more powerful it becomes. So AI excels at coordination, right? So what becomes of the middle manager layer in an AI flattened organization? What does this do? Like this huge coordination ability of AI, orchestration ability, what do we do with this? What will happen to our own talent on management side, coordination side? Reza.
Yes, there are different types of performing different roles. So for each role or work or job, we have different ways that we perform. In management, especially middle management, we can see there are a lot that we can see. They do alignment and communication as a mean of communication, not communicating themselves. So just something that might be replaced, a lot of them by email, but it's softer if middle manager get involved. And then I see future, they would lose their job to AI if they are just doing that. But we have also a lot of big portion of middle management, especially in, not especially, but more in public sector and corporations, that they do have responsibility of decision making, and taking accountability of the things that are happening. So they need to think and take accountability to decide and then communicate or perform something. They wouldn't be possible to be replaced with AI easily or in a foreseeable future, but they can benefit from AI by improving their efficiency and effectiveness and performance, but not being replaced, since we cannot put accountability on AI decision making.
Very interesting point. So you mentioned 3 points, like what value you bring to beyond a very cookie cut process, especially in terms of decisions and accountability. Great points. Felicia, over to you.
Yeah. So middle management, I think this is a great question, because I'm so interested in what's going to happen to all the leadership or management and absolutely the middle management. And I think that middle managers who mainly coordinate with will struggle. That's exactly what AI is good at. So but those who create directions and build culture and also translate strategy into execution, they will become more important, I think. So the role I don't think it's going to disappear. I think it's going to become more focused.
Very interesting point. You bring direction, culture, and ability to translate strategy into actual execution in an organization. So we already have 6 fences which are protecting human capability right now, and which is also means that human capability can be amplified in these areas to retain humans in the center, so that they are not replaced as a single cookie cut process. Really interesting points. Arfah, over to you.
I think just literally, just to echo that, I think direction is definitely really key, right? AI is very, very good at execution, but the execution is only as good with the data that you feed it, the direction you give it, the context. So all of that stuff. I mean, I'm just thinking about myself and running a business and stuff, and just literally in the last couple of weeks, there are easily roles I can now replace, or skill sets I can replace of people in my team. And where I see kind of gaps, it's to do with the fact that, it's the direction. Yes, even AI can help us with direction, but even to get to that direction, I still got to feed it that information, feed it that vision. And those visions and those bits are the bits that I think are kind of guarded in that sense. And if people are not stepping in to really feeding it the right context, managing the machines, as I like to call it, those are the things. And I think for me, like anything that doing, so obviously I work with very grassroots organizations, so they only have maybe one freelancer, 2-3 people maybe working for them, maybe 5 volunteers and one full-time person. And for me, when I'm working with them to build these systems, that's obviously the biggest fear that they have. They think that I'm going to come in and I'm going to, make them redundant, etc. But actually what I'm doing is freeing up their time to work on the more meaningful stuff, the more stuff to do with, actually human to human interaction and offloading the admin and the burden and those side of things. So I think for me, that's the most important. But also the thing that I would add is, I mean, I'm hiring for like a freelance role in a few months, and one of the things I've been thinking about is if this person is not an AI native, is not open to AI experimentation, I don't want to know them. Like that's actually the fact, because I have worked with people that are so like against working with AI, and I'm just like, I can't. I need somebody who is playing around with the new technologies. No one needs to be an expert, but that open and experimental mindset, I think, is again another kind of human skill set that I'm really looking for. And if somebody is not open to the new technologies, then they're not right for me to work with them. So I think for me, those are definitely the key things that I think about.
I'm going to agree
Very
with her
interesting.
on that. I think that if you're not AI open, you're not employable in the future.
Very interesting point. Your own intention, openness and experiment if you are not that. So, Arfah, thanks for bringing that out. But you also brought out a very interesting point. You talked a lot about how AI execution can be worked out, but you mentioned in the start intelligent feeding. So contextualization for the I think that is a very key area. So I've written down at the seventh. If you can, so that still remains a human skill, a fully human skill, the contextualization for AI, because then AI can execute. So if we build our strengths in that part, that could be our advantage as a species, can
Because
be
nobody
better
knows you or
contextualized.
your business or yourself
Yeah,
better than you, right? And I
yeah.
think that is the most important. Even right now, right? I'm building a system on Claude for myself. You've probably seen all those carousels going viral, right? But to make those carousels really good, I've got to sit there, go through my Google Photos, pick out my pictures, put them all in a folder, give it the right kind of context for me to really personalize it so it doesn't look like AI slop, right? That first bit is something I can't even outsource to a VA because I'm the one who want to picks the pictures that I look good in, you know? So those are the things that like yes, once that system is done, I'll be flying. But that's the one bit where I'm just like, oh, I've still got to do that, you know? And because those are the things like taste, human taste. Like again, Claude Design recently came out, and a lot of the commentary I've been seeing is that actually now, and to be honest, even when I was using Gamma, you can see what AI design is. There are certain patterns that etc. are coming. So good designers are the ones who use these tools and make it excellent. Designers who turn away from these tools are not going to thrive. And so, again, even in this kind of creative aspect, which people thought that creativity was almost like an untouched thing, you actually have to embrace the AI. And that's when you add your skill set and your expertise and your taste that will make you fly. So, I think for me, those are the things that I think are like so important, and where kind of human and AI in kind of integration will do really well. But if somebody turns their back against their tools, they're just not going to.
I loved your point that the way you made it. I think the way you gave that example of use case of creating a carousel, I think that's not very different from creating a market expansion strategy for Nestle. It requires the same level of contextualization. It's just a different case. So it's really interesting to know, like, you are still in control on how you want the technology to amplify your work. As a corporation, as a creator, from 10,000 people to one person, it's the same thing. Paul, let's hear you.
Yeah, so just briefly, I wanted to support what people are saying, particularly the passion with which Arfah just spoke. I yeah, fully agree with her points. I just wanted to again bring back the focus to of a middle manager who might in the future have a role, potentially something similar to a sport captain. When you think of a football team captain or a cricket team captain, they're not necessarily task-based. And in some fields, particularly cricket, the player may not even be performing particularly well in their own role, but they have a cohesive and a regulating kind of function that allows the team to operate. So again, my perspective, you'll be getting it now, is about the ecosystem, is about the nervous system within the ecosystem. And, you know, a question that struck me rather than, you know, I think the phase shift is moving from what tasks do people do and moving more, particularly in the middle management, is what is it that people are knocking my door for? What are people coming to me for? And I think increasingly it won't be about how can I do. I don't think the focus will be on doing. I don't think, and picking up on your point with Bertrand Russell, I don't think the focus will be on work per se. It will be on vocation. It'll be finding that meaning. It's almost with flipping into a kind of inverse situation where for the whole of my life at 52, the problem has been, how do I get more? Now we've got too much. And how do we filter? How do we find meaning? How do we find focus? And how do we integrate a good life within that? So it comes back to these very, very old, ancient philosophical practices, in a sense. I was supposed to be
Okay.
brief, sorry.
No, but I love the hierarchy that you just created. I love it because you said doing more. Okay, fine, but that's gone. It's filtering, and from filtering, eventually our quest is for the meaning. And what is the quest for meaning? It's human happiness. So the chain of thought is very well connected, and I love it the way you put it, Paul. Thank you for that. I want to focus on one more point, a very important point. Whenever a new technology is coming in, it can be used for good or for bad. And in particular work context, I think bias is a major thing. Like it has been around, there's a lot of discussion, and that's where I want to ask here. How can we ensure that AI-driven recruitment, HR tools, they don't just automate and accelerate higher historical biases? Like, how do we ensure that we still build? Arfah, you made some interesting point earlier on. So, want to focus on that a little bit, the panel's attention. Christine.
Okay, so in one way, I think, I'm referencing Kahneman here, who did some great research on behavioral economy and how we work, how our brains work. And we are drawn to lethargy. We want easy solutions, okay? But we are built for effort and built on sitting with complex questions and wrestling through that in order to gain what discernment and wisdom and internalized knowledge. And biases, and thinking that we can eradicate bias through technology is just within that law of lethargy. We think that, oh, this will be easy, perfect. And then we don't deal with our biases. We just think that someone else has dealt with it, and then, because we have to still sit with it. We have to engage in multicultural context. We have to, make uncomfortable, decisions, etc., etc. That's how we learn. That's how we become not biased. But still, the brain is prone to doing these shortcuts. So it's not like one fix. We have to just keep doing it. And we cannot outsource our thinking on that area because then we lose.
Very interesting points there, Christine. Would anyone like to add on biases? Yes, Felicia.
Yeah, so what we know is that AI reflects our past decisions, and it's not neutral. So the question is more. It's not about if bias exists in AI. It's more about, like we are now talking about it, whether we are aware of it and how we are aware of our own biases, of course. And this requires that we have transparency models, that we have human oversight in the decision making, of course, and also the diversity in the team buildings, these systems. Otherwise, we're just scaling old problems faster, I think.
Very interesting points. Thank you, Felicia, for those. Arfah.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to things like biases, I think guardrails, etc., are really important, and really kind of self-checking and being conscious and building that within your systems, but again having that human intervention. I just wanted to comment on some of the chatter actually happening as well in the chat. And one of my old bosses actually said that once upon a time being an entrepreneur was the most riskiest thing you could do. Now actually having a job is the most riskiest thing you can do. And I really kind of think that's a really interesting kind of take, because I think actually if we look at consultancy, right, all the big fours, etc., have been making lots of redundancies, the Accentures, etc. A lot of graduates can't get jobs because graduate schemes are getting, because all of those jobs that kind of used to be done by the early entry people making the slide decks and all of those things, a lot of that stuff is kind of again being relegated by AI. But the consultants that are thriving are actually individuals who have certain expertise, who are not working for the big four, etc. So even myself, right, I found this really, really unique niche that's very unique to myself, right? The fact that I used to run a grassroots organization, I've always worked in kind of this underrepresented, helping underrepresented people. All of a sudden, I'm helping them upskill in AI because I understand what a grassroots organization goes through. So all of a sudden, my expertise is super hyper focused to a very specific type of organization, and the reason they would actually take me on is because I really understand them. So likewise, individuals who have very unique insight, that kind of cross-section of something, that's where I think people can really, really thrive. And that's the thing to really ask yourself if you have a job or work or whatever, etc., is what is unique to you? And then how can you then apply the AI layer on top? And that I think is actually how people will thrive kind of going forward.
That's a very interesting point. I'll just like to reflect a bit on this because I think jobs, when you said that was an amazing point that you said that the jobs are risky or that's going to be very risky. And I think jobs are product of an era of stable systems. You built organizations moved slow, so they need resources. So you needed to enter a new country, you needed to add another 1,000 people's layer to acquire the next step. So it was always stepwise acquisitions and building of companies. So companies were built in steps. Then came startups. What startups did was that they had a unicorn ambition. So they were powered by tech, less focused on traditional systems or traditional human capability. Startups did that well. What I think AI is going to do is the unit is going to change from organizations to startups. It's going to come, as you're saying, to individuals. Because now individuals, that is the unit of how does individual integrate with the technology to do something which was organizational or unicorn level for organizations and startups. What is the individual next unit? Very interesting point over there. Reza, over to you.
There has been 2 points here, but I focus on biases first.
Yeah.
Regarding biases, 5 years ago, right after the pandemic, we had AI systems with huge biases and strange situations. There are a lot of examples I used to bring up in my presentations at the time, and we had a dream of having AI with specific qualifications and requirements. Today, we have way past that dream. It's a lot better than we could imagine 5 years ago, and it's getting even better. The thing about biases is we had a process and researchers focusing on how to prevent biases, not for AI, but for humans. And the most famous direction was blind review. You have to mask the names, pictures, change a little bit on the resumes, for example, to help people that even believe they don't have biases, don't do unconsciously some internal thing. So we do that a lot better on AI than on humans. So AI could be better blinded to a lot of different things easily, directly. Human needs to be trained. We have to do a lot of preparation to make a blind review by humans. The other thing is, remember, a lot of jobs have tests. You might need to drive a truck in a specific situation. You might have to do a little bit of trial work for a few days at a store, or a few weeks at a company, or maybe take an online test for software if you are a good Java programmer or not. And all of those tests and trials have problems, and we always got these feedbacks that this test doesn't reflect how good I am in my job because it doesn't include this and this and this and this. And then we have to refine them. With AI, we can pass that. We can overcome those problems easier. We can include more sophisticated and complex tests and analysis to make sure we have better judgment and better selection and less biased process. I'm not saying that AI has made it better. I'm saying that AI is going to make it a lot better than human ever could do in removing biases and have better analysis on tests and trials and those processes.
Amazing. So you're saying that we can have better judgment, better selection with reduced biases if we are able to use AI better. And you gave very specific examples. I loved it when you say better blindedness and better testing. So I think those are both very practical suggestions for organizations. Thank you for bringing those out, Reza. Kristin.
Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like we're talking about two different things when we're talking about AI and we're talking about organizations. Organizations are social constructions, as in life. Society is a social construction, you know? And the question is, are we here to learn? What's the purpose of our society? Or are we here to have the technology learn for us? And what does that mean for me as a person? Would it mean that I don't have the biases if the computer tells me I'm not biased? No. I mean, again, it's like we see, I mean, organizations today are very fragmented as it is. You know, they have tons of technology in there, you know, and when you're adding AI and humans interacting, you know, it means that we're just talking tasks. We're removing the social, you know, construction in a sense. It means that anybody, regardless of if they're in the organization or not, could do the task, right? So it's called hyper decentralization, and it's research on this. But the question comes down to like, what kind of society do we want? You know, do we want people that have internalized good judgment, or do we want technology to do it for us? And what does that mean for us as a human beings, as a society? I think we're lacking more of a moral philosophy, you know? It's like, what kind of society do we need, you know? And that will reflect on organizational life.
And that's a very good question. Like, who decides what kind of societies do we need? Is that an organizational decision? Because you brought out a very philosophical question. It's a very simple question, and it's a question which should just jolt all of us. What kind of society do we need? Who answers that and who builds that?
They're called democracy.
Yeah, of course. But thank you for that. We are at the stretch end of this panel. I would still kind of put a very short, quick point for everybody here and give me short answers. Reskilling at scale. Beyond basic literacy, what is one existential skill every employee must learn to remain relevant in post-AGI workplace? So what is the existential skills that is needed? Short answer.
The thought infrastructure. My own cognition is my key skill. I will stick to it.
Okay, thought infrastructure. Thank you so much for that, Kristin. Paul.
So for me, it's self-regulation. It's the capacity to notice when a stimulus environment is dysregulating you and to do something about it before it does something to you. So the essential skill is learning to use AI and learning to notice when it or the broader system is using you. So you build your capacity before you start to fragment.
Okay, very interesting. More thoughts?
I struggle to find one thing, but if I had to do one, I would focus on education or being able to educate yourself constantly. None of us could be here wherever we are if we stopped educating ourselves 10 years ago. There has been a lot change, and we have learned and adopted up to now. So it has to continue. Otherwise, at some point in future, we might left behind and cannot catch up anymore.
Awesome. And
1,000%, Reza. 1,000%.
And I love the comment. Saul put it here, learning velocity. I love it, the way you say it. Felicia, over to you. I was just referring to the chat. Felicia, quick one.
Yeah, well, also if I had to choose one thing, it would be that too, of course, relearning, but also unlearning. So not just learning new things, but also letting go of what you thought was true yesterday. Because it's everything's going such a high speed right now, and being competent is no longer enough. When you have AI, you have also to be adaptable. So those who can do that won't. I don't think that they will stay relevant, but they will also lead the way.
Very interesting point, unlearning. And it's a very simple choice. Like to go to a new place, you need to not go to an old place. So it's a very simple thing. So you need to branch on a different scale. But thank you so much for bringing so much learnings here. I really appreciate all the comments that have been coming on the chat and the amazing discussion that you have produced. Thank you, Arfah, Paul, Reza, Kristin, and Felicia for being here. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just finished a very, very interesting discussion that was going on. And with that, a warm welcome to our new panelists. And if I can go one by one across the room for a quick introduction. Let's start with you, Elizabeth. Tell us what you're doing, what makes AI interesting for you, work interesting for you.
Thanks, Naimul. Hi, everybody. My name's Elizabeth, and over on LinkedIn, people know me as the Liberated Polymath. It's not a title that I bestowed upon myself. It's more of a descriptor for how I operate in this world. And so that's pretty much where my research comes from. My background is 20 plus years in workplace strategy and global real estate, and the last 10 years in coaching consultancy, startups, and working as a professional chef. So everybody loves that. I'm primarily interested in what happens when intelligence outpaces containment and how we design humans and systems that don't break as a result. So my work sits at the intersection of cognitive architecture, leadership, and real-world complexity, specifically but not limited to polymathic and high-capacity thinkers. So what happens when people try to operate beyond what they have built the capacity to contain? Because the way the world's going, much like money, substances, or work, AI will either amplify or destabilize us. So I've built 3 models around cognitive architecture, a stabilization protocol, and a wealth congruence diagnostic that all kind of tie up how we retain our cognitive sovereignty around the things that inevitably destabilize us if we're not ready for them. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that amazing background. I've written here high capacity thinking. So we'll be going into a lot of thinking with you. Elizabeth, thank you for bringing that perspective. Maria, over to you.
Hi, everyone. A pleasure to be here today. So my background is from entrepreneurship. I have been building products and services from idea to go to market. I have been in telecom and retail and been working with circular business models and sustainability. And a year and a half ago, I went on a journey of being an entrepreneur. So I'm building my AI native startup. I'm actually on my 2nd startup now. So what I'm building is an interactive journal that allows you to see your patterns and blind spots and ultimately creates a map of your inner world. So that's really something that I'm very passionate about, because I think we measure so many things around us, but we still understand so little about what's really inside ourselves, and we also have a tendency to forget. So, I mean, for me, AI is interesting from a perspective how can actually can make us and can enable us to become more humans. How can it help us to slow down and really come closer to each other to solve all the divides that we have today in society?
Great, amazing perspective. Like you're building your 2nd startup, and I think you mentioned a few very important things, like looking inside is very important. If the purpose of the technology is to make us more human and connect with each other better. So great starting points there. With that, we move to Nina.
Hi everyone. Calling in from the west coast of Sweden, from the summer house. I hope you hear the birds chirping in the background. So I'm the CEO and founder of Circular Transparency. It's an advisory company first, but we are looking into other things as well. My experience is coming from retail, where I actually crossed paths with Maria at one point. My let's say my connection to AI is from business strategy, big corporates, but also I've also been supporting startups, from global supply chain to planning assortments, R&D, and sustainability. On Wednesday, we also meet together with a professor at Stockholm School of Economics, launched a white paper, which is called AI for Resilient Retail. Fundamentally, it's a resilience paper, but it looks at AI as a kind of, and to be honest, AI is going to be a tool. It can be used for good and bad. So it's resilience first. How will AI impact it? And we chose retail because retail is such a squeezed sector with like tight margins, and it moves fast and it's complex, and it kind of hits these big shifts early or first. So these challenges we're talking about shows up in retail quite early, especially, let's say, my background within fashion, etc. So that's my background, and we launched it, and we had executives who actually contributed across IKEA, Microsoft, Google, and many more. And I'm happy to share the link to the white paper for everyone or whoever that is interested to have a look. And the core thesis there is what we call the let's say fragility trap of AI. So I think a lot of people are really excited about AI. Many companies are very much excited about AI, but then they approach it from a, let's say, old world order point of view. I think you mentioned it, Naeem, where things were stable, things moved like very slow. So you could plan for things in a different way. And I think that whole mentality are still there in how organizations or companies are applying AI, which is very like, okay, what is the use case? What is the smallest and how does it create value? And while doing that, when you do that and delegate it to a small team within your tech organization, you might actually create a fragility or lock yourself in a way that could hamper your business in long term. And that long term could be anything from a year to 3 years because things move really fast. So yeah, I'm going to stop there because I can go off, talk about this for hours.
Awesome. But a fragility trap of AI, and then you also talked about resilience in retail. So we'll come back to that. With that, we'll go to Rafi.
Hi everyone, I'm Rafi, co-founder and CEO of Collio. We are building an AI receptionist that answers phone calls for small businesses. And when a business owner is too busy to pick up, we answer the calls, book appointments, take messages, and follow-ups. So I'm based out of Sweden. I'm originally from India, and I came to Sweden to do my master's. And after 6 months into Sweden, I found a problem, and then I started my earlier first company called Fixi, and now I'm into my second company. And also now I'm very much fascinated with this AI, helping me to be like a non-technical founder, but can ship a lot of things myself as well now. So, and also helping the people who are very older, mentoring them so that they can also pick up the speed, because those are the people who are in very risk to lose their jobs. So I feel like they should also pick up the speed. So that's my background.
Awesome. Love the social impact that you're making. Thank you for making that, Rafi. And then we move to Sabrina.
Hi, my name is Sabrina. You know me like in LinkedIn, like Tech Queen. I have 15 years in IT support and security. I have been like sharing knowledge on LinkedIn or tech events, and also write different kinds of papers, how to be out there and sharing knowledge. Right now, I'm a team leader at the Zen-based group. Zen-based group works with both IT service and finance. On helping companies build structure and not only in the system but also in the finance. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for very active LinkedIn presence and sharing the knowledge. I think that's something which is very important. LinkedIn is probably the new school book for us to learn at when we are out of school. Then we are learning from our LinkedIn and the network. But Sabrina, thank you for being here, and a big thanks to all the panelists. And I'm just trying to gather all the experience points here. We'll be talking about about future of work from the perspective of high capacity thinking, to looking inside in case of Maria, resilience retail, and fragility trap of AI with Rafi's social impact focus, and Sabrina, your knowledge spreading focus. So I think there's a lot of interesting perspectives there. So let's take our first point of order today. As AI commoditizes cognitive labor, what specific human-only skill will become the most expensive luxury in the talent market going forward? Yes. I saw Elizabeth first and then Maria.
Thank you so much. Sorry for jumping in there, guys. Kristin called it great in the last session. She called it thought infrastructure. And that's what my work focuses on. It's about cognitive structure and understanding the capacity of our individual brains. So I started my research because I think that polymathic high capacity thinking is the least understood and remains unnamed neurodiversity. And so it comes with a huge amount of challenges, like being misunderstood, undervalued, etc. But well, actually, I need to go back and say cognitive sovereignty is where it's at, because they think, well, I absolutely believe and know from personal experience that environmental suppression, working in corporates, I went to boarding school, and dealing with that level of misunderstanding really drove me into this exploratory territory, knowledge seeking, experience seeking, and of course polymathic studies will call that seeking novelty. But all of that, you know, because there is no filter, we take in data, we take in information, we cannot filter it, which causes cognitive overload. But we still have all this amazing data that it just isn't leveraged within organizations because people don't understand, like, how do you know that? But they don't have all the pieces that make the puzzle. So yeah, remaining stable under complexity without outsourcing judgment, and taking all of that information from multiple sources and deciding what matters, you know, ethically, without bias, with intent and with structure.
So it's very interesting points you raise, cognitive thought infrastructure. You talk about remaining stable under complexity. You also talked about a very interesting thing like knowledge, experience, and novelty seeking. So these are three very interconnected concepts. So thank you for bringing those out. Maria, let's go to you.
Thank you. I also really love the points that Elizabeth made. I think very sharp. I think, like, when I'm thinking about that 2030 skill that can really, you know, human skill that will value, I'm thinking that until now we have been basically paying like for, you know, strategy, code, scale. It has been the outputs, and what as the compute and the cost of AI goes to close to zero, I think what becomes really important is, of course, what are the skills that are deeply human, and that's ability to sit with ambiguity, and to really be present in this high stakes moment. I mean, we can definitely anticipate that there is just more of it coming, and there is, you know, definitely would require from us as people to be able to make some tough decisions. So underneath this, it's really, human skills, it's emotional intelligence. Are you able to, people management? Are you able to be a good leader? I think it's when I'm thinking about ambiguity and ability to make decisions, I'm also thinking about judgment. So how do you actually train this muscle? And I think the question is not like whether people will use AI or not. I believe everyone will use it, but I think how people use it will definitely become a differentiator. Are you thinking of it as mental gym that can, help you to become a better person who can actually, make your logic, your arguments bulletproof? Do you understand why you're making certain decisions? Like when did you disagree with the AI last time? I think these are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, because it's very easy, again, and something that's very human for us, to go with the other route and just basically outsource your whole thinking process.
Amazing points. You talked about, I think, a very important point, like we being present, like presence is required. Whenever there is ambiguity, you need to be present. If you are zoned out, the ambiguity will compound. So I think our ability to be present, using emotional intelligence, as you said, around how do we orchestrate people's abilities and our human connection. So I think you talked about that. You talked about ability to make decisions and sound judgments. Great points over there. Nina, let's move to you.
I think there has been great points made already, but what I would add to it is that, again, going back to this, we are moving from old way of doing business, an old world order, to a new one, and we are in this middle ground. I mean, the future is here in this middle ground. The future is here, but we don't have the systems or methods or detailed processes in place to work with it. And I think one capability that becomes strong in these kind of environments is the system thinking approach, where you can actually think broader and then a specific task. And I think I think that whole idea of how business has been done, which has been very task based, and I think we need to let's say become more resilient in ourselves. There are different way of becoming resilient on a country level, business level, but in a people level, I think moving from being too much task oriented, your knowledge is in a task, to be more competence oriented. And also in that process, it becomes really important to really understand, okay, what is my competence? And I mean, for me, I'm really good at seeing big relevant shifts from a business perspective early on, create clarity in a complex question, and also gather momentum by connecting and gathering right people around it, whether it's in the organization or a larger ecosystem, and create momentum. So I think once you understand that by yourself, then you can apply it in many different places. And going back to, you mentioned also something interesting, Naim, the whole moving from company to from big corps to startups to individual. And I think understanding that for yourself will also help you a lot to be capable of maneuvering that. And if I would add, and this is not in future, it's more here and now, I think having a flexible mindset would help you a lot, and that in combination with a learning mindset. So understand what are your skills, what are your core skills, not what are you good at in terms of marketing, sustainability, strategy. What are your core skills? And then navigating. And for me, it becomes also important to add a layer of value. So I want to be a good human fundamentally. So then that's how I show up and how I maneuver and guide towards where I want to move next.
Nina, thank you so much for those points. I love the initial structure that you gave. that there's an old order, there's a new order, and somewhere we are in the middle ground, and the systems and the processes and the tasks, they are not moving. So we cannot be stuck in a small dot of task. We need to have, as you said, a bigger picture, ability to bring clarity to complexity, and with that complexity resolve, build that into a new force of momentum and go to the other side. So brilliant points over there. Sabrina, over to you.
Thank you. How I'm thinking is like not be afraid of AI and really begin to share knowledge. If you have learned something, share it with others so they can also learn and get some inspiration. If in the company or on your social media, be sharing so you know exactly how to build a great AI and also feel the mindset how to create it. Because AI is just a tool. It's not something that can be like, okay, this can take your job like that. Absolutely, it's going to take some jobs away, but also going to build new jobs, a new mindset, how to use it. I think that's important. That's my own thoughts about how to use AI and how to still build in the future and take it.
Very interesting point. And you bring a very strong point of sharing, because when you are sharing, you then need to do your own stuff very well. Before sharing, there's a lot of filters you need to cross. So sharing itself is a way of learning. So when you share something, before that, there's a lot of learning stacking that happens for you. And then eventually it becomes packaged and gets shared. So I think if we become great at sharing, we eventually became great at learning, sifting through stuff, creating order for our own minds, and then sharing that order with the rest of the world. Brilliant point, Sabrina. Rafi, over to you.
So I feel like judgment in ambiguous situations. I think one of the panelists also has mentioned earlier, I guess. So AI is really good in handling the predictable, like the routine calls or standard bookings. But when the customer is like upset or confused or asking something unexpected, that's where the human matters. I feel the premium comes there, and that will be the premium where there is no clear playbook, and I think that the human only skill plays a huge role over there, understanding the uh, emotions.
Really interesting point. You talked about emotions and resolving complexity. I think that that's a good point in terms of how human skills are going to evolve. So we have a lot of knowledge. So if you are going to be seeing this on a playback after the summit, after a few days, there's a lot of knowledge in the last 15 compressed minutes that has come out. It's to what skill needs to be developed, and that's for our community who will be getting all this, who are getting it now and in upcoming summit video when it is put on YouTube. Let's go to the founders world a little bit. A couple of you are founders. Rafi, you are a founder. Maria, you are on the second startup. Somebody else also mentioned, Nina, maybe you are also on the retail side with that. How does the profile of a successful innovator change or founder change when AI can handle the technical execution of a startup? So what's the role of a founder? What does the founder look like? Is the landscape changing? So it's a question to you. I see a hand up already. Rafi, is it for now or is it for previous?
No, I can
Yeah,
still
please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the bottleneck shifts from can you build it to do you understand the problem deeply enough? With AI, a non-technical founder can ship a product faster than ever right now, but that also means the advantage isn't in building anymore. It is in knowing which problem is worth solving and for whom. I'm not a deep engineer, but I know what happens when a garage owner misses a call because they are under a car. That customer understanding is what AI can't replace.
Amazing. So customer understanding, and that's what we are trying to teach founders all the time when they're building startups. In the accelerator that I run, we're always saying before building the product, understand the customers, and while building the product, understand the customers, and moving into the next venture, understand the customer. It's always like that. So great that you brought that point up, Rafi. Maria.
Yes, thank you. I definitely echo some of the points Rafi made, and they were also on my mind. I mean, for me, AI, it really amplifies whatever you bring to it. And I think like the issues often becomes that like execution is no longer a bottleneck. But again, are you making the right decisions? Because I think the risks like you're running into that you can just, run very fast, but to complete wrong direction. So I think the skill that is really needed today is again, the ability to slow down in the right moments and to truly embrace like those ambiguity moments and be able to reflect like why are we doing this decision? Does that feel like me? Can someone else replicate it very, very easily? And like what's authentic about this? I think these are the things like that will be extremely important, and again, these are the skills that make us deeply human in the first place.
Very interesting point. And in startup building, I was having a master class yesterday, and I was day before yesterday maybe, and I was talking about that what AI is doing right now is that your speed from mind to market is phenomenal. Like that compression has happened. It used to be like if for a tech startup, you used to take 3 years, 1 year, 3 months. So it was like, so now you can do so much faster stuff, which was not possible before. So mind to market. And it's also in retail, which Nina works with. Uh, but what's in the mind is the main issue, because
Yeah.
mind to market can happen very fast. So if mind is not made up, as you're saying, well, what you end up producing might not be what you intended eventually. But very good point over there. Nina, over to you.
I wanted to say we work broader than retail, but definitely retail is an expertise area. And also, if you like that middle ground, that's part of my keynote. So I'm doing a little bit of commercial here, if anyone is interested. From an entrepreneur perspective, I think, I mean, for me, I started my company before AI became what it is today, and if I would have scaled in the same way without it, I would probably need 10 to 20 people for the work that I'm doing myself. And I think the whole idea where AI is removing this need for actually knowing the technique, and I'm talking about how to design a website, how to create a nice PowerPoint, and how to formulate your content. I mean, that becomes so cheap or accessible in a way. So I think that whole idea of people with a vision who actually can also move and create, those are the ones that I think you will see more showing up as creator. And then in the middle, you definitely need the knowledge. And I also believe that whole system thinker that becomes very valuable. And beneath it, you need to have grit, a bit of courage, and a bit of like positive insanity, I would call it. But I really think with this whole disruption of moving from task to skills and having access to tools who can do things that you initially would need so much seed funding for, you know what I mean? That kind of flips the narrative and flips the opportunity in totally new ways, and it disrupts, and that will eventually also shift the power. So we can talk about that power dynamic as well. But yeah, just a teaser.
Amazing. Thank you for bringing so many interesting points here, like even power dynamics, as you were saying. But before that, you also talked about grit, courage, positive insanity. Would love to dwell more on that. Sabrina, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not a founder like that, but my perspective is that you need to think about that security also when you are having different type of tools like that, and that's the important thing. And also to think, okay, do you need all the tools out there? Can you just testing it? Because if you are going to find something tools, you cannot have everything in your company. It's going to be it's going to cost a lot of money and also time. Do you have time to test everything? Or are you going to scale up, okay, I need this tool for just this task or not? So I think you need to find the ways that you are working in your company, and just not to buy.
Very interesting point, and that's a point of how you are integrating with the new technology, like how you are finding your way, your workflow into it, because it will have a huge impact on your output and your happiness, eventual happiness, because all output needs to end to a human outcome at the end. So
also an IT security perspective, how do you use the tools?
Yeah.
And how the user are using it, and also how your company are using tools. Because if you're using just like, okay, adding like this content in, okay, is it sensitive data or not? So how is going to that impact everything? So that's important to think about.
Really important points. Elizabeth, I saw you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can't raise my hand because I got my paperwork up in front of the screen. So I didn't want to miss out on this one. So I was reading that 90% of startups fail. And I've been kind of repeating this joke in my head, which is I feel like I've been failing to start up for the last 10 years. But I'm here for a good time and a long time. So I just keep going. You know, I'm a founder. If I want to call myself that, I'm a founder every day. And as was said in the last panel, like anybody can be a founder now. But that doesn't mean that everybody should be. So I'm kind of noticing something that I call trust architecture versus something called control architecture. These are my terms. It's just how I see it. So I think the founding advantage goes to, I'm sorry about the noise, there's somebody banging around outside. The advantage goes to those who can hold a problem long enough to ensure that they build what matters and not just what makes money. And what kept repeating in my head this morning was a quote from Jurassic Park, the amazing Jeff Goldblum, when he says, scientists are racing to, what is it? To discover what they could do, but they're not stopping to think whether or not they should. And that's where we are. The trust architecture versus the control architecture, the chasing of money, and so on. I mean, that's actually why I developed the wealth congruence diagnostic. It's not about wealth. It's about why you're taking a particular trajectory and whether you really should. So
that's a very interesting point, and I think that brings me to my next question as well, and probably we can wrap up with that question, that how we can use the human and AI collaboration to solve existential challenges. Climate is one, health is another one. War is a challenge we now seeing, like we are in 21st century and wars are still happening. We are still fighting. So these existential challenges that we have, how can the human and AI combination can be used to address these? Maria.
Yeah, I think, I mean, AI is really good at some things right now. I mean, one of those things, it's analyzing large amounts of data. So I think this is where, you know, it kind of becomes a no-brainer. I mean, there are implications like what human eyes can see, like seeing, for example, like microplastics in the water, or, you know, building, you know, climate systems that are more sophisticated than anything we have seen. You know, combine that with robotics, there is definitely a lot of hope. And I think, of course, we can't really know what it would mean if we come to AGI moment, you know, but I think the way I see it, it's really like AI is being a sparring partner to people who are really passionate about those challenges. And like that combination can bring beautiful outcomes, because obviously, like, it's sometimes it is about just holding it all together. So there, like, AI helps quite a lot. But I think there are a few things that are important to think about there, because, for example, in academia, you know, there is no like agreed definition, like, is the AI good or bad, right? Like, there is green AI, there is red AI. So, I mean, still takes, of course, a lot of energy to produce, a lot of water to produce, and ultimately, like, I mean, the question is, can we even produce something good with something bad, so to say? So I think this are important questions to reflect on, and I think that's also like you need to think of what is the definition of good before you actually start optimize for whatever.
Amazing points over there. And I think we'll switch to Sabrina now. Any quick points from your side as well? We are doing a quick round and then we move to our. Sorry, before moving there, I'm just putting a note here because the summit will be on for another 20 minutes or so, and it'll be time for AI Fika. So anybody on the other side who wants to come on stage and tell us what they're doing can tell us. Yes, Sabrina, over to you. Thank you, Maria, for your perspective.
Yeah, how I'm thinking about, for example, we have like a war like now on military, they're using AI, but because they are using AI, other companies are getting more like they know how to use it more, like in healthcare, they can find stuff like cancer cells. So I think that it's not great that we have war and like that, but military help us to be better in that way. We can find stuff, we can build better things. So I think it's both. We have the both sides, the bad or the good sides. So we have like a gray area. That's how I'm thinking about how AI is working better.
Okay. And now comes the last question on which I want you to do a future gazing and do a very quick assessment. And my question here is, does the future of work mean the end of geography, or will local hubs of innovation become more important for human to human synergy? With AI, are we going towards the global or the local side? So take a position very quickly. Very quickly, you have to choose a side. It can be middle. Sorry, Nina, it can be middle ground. You need to choose either the global or the local. Yes, Nina. So what do you think? Is it going to be a lot of localization, or is it going to be global workforces, or how we are going to be working together with AI?
I think both. I think as long as we are human, we will need access to connectivity and meeting and building a community. And I think that becomes more and more important from a mental health perspective. But I also believe that the connection and the connectivity will increase. With that said, let's see, maybe some countries will shut down, set barriers, and set what do you call it, digital walls between the countries. I mean, there's still a lot to be explored, but I really think that local hub is still going to be very important and valid.
Okay. So you're taking
so local.
Okay, got it. Maria, what's your perspective? And then I'm coming to you, Elizabeth and Sabrina and Rafi. Choose your position.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that like human connection is becoming a differentiator. You know, that is also why like there are so many brands now investing into building communities, building that authentic connection. I think ultimately, you know, we want that friction as well. And that friction we can only get from human to human communication.
Got it. Okay. Sabrina?
Oh, so difficult. The global is then sharing knowledge. That's the thing. But the local is going to more IT security, how we are serving data, and that is something that is in everyone's thinking, how they're thinking right now. So I'm going to say local right now because IT security.
Okay. And Rafi?
As Sabrina said, it's very difficult to choose, but I think I will go with the local hubs remain very important. Like, for example, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was saying like in-person connections or the local ecosystem support would be more important, like the programs you are also doing as little programs. I think like that will really important to drive the momentum.
Okay. Elizabeth?
It's a really tough one, but actually, once in the seconds that have been ticking by, for me, it's actually a no-brainer. I've worked for international companies my entire career, and I can't help thinking that it's simulated culture, it's simulated connection, and you don't know my background, but where I've landed in the south of France, being nomadic, being a fish out of water, kind of, I can't tell you the benefits of local community and hubs in a way that I've never ever experienced it before, not just in my personal life, but in my professional life. It's like going back to proper basics, where the village supports you as opposed to just simulating support. So yeah, I'm going local hub.
Okay, great for taking a position, but thank you so much. With that, we come to the end of this panel. Amazing contributions from everyone, insights. Thank you for that, Sabrina, Elizabeth, Rafi, Maria, and Nina. We'll be in touch, but this has been great. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. With that panel, we now move to our last phase of our summit.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for these amazing, really super fascinating, interesting discussions. You covered so many different perspectives. I'm lacking one, though, that I would like to bring up, but that's UBI, Universal Basic Income, that is on the agenda. People are talking about after the work, post-work era. What are people going to do if the robots or the AI is going to take over both the cognitive load as well as the robotics? And some are even claiming universal high income. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know how many of the panelists are still here or anyone in the audience. Please feel free. What are your thoughts on UBI and UHI?
Very interesting point. Yes, Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Who decides? Is it like the insurance companies that decide who gets a payout in a plane crash? Who decides who gets what? And how will it be judged? How will it be fair? I mean, I'm looking forward to it in some ways, but I have no control over its fairness. So, I talked about trust architecture and control architecture. Which is it? Who's building it? I want to meet them. I want to look them in the eye and see what their motivation is.
And what's the intention is, as you're exactly saying, is it being built by corporations to just ensure that we can consume more, which means that we will all be 500 pounds by consuming more, because they eventually want us to consume more because AI is producing limitless and then we have income. So I think we have not been there. There are a lot of implications. The closest reflection that I sometimes see is when you see movies like Star Trek, because they're saying we don't have money anymore because we live, but then they are kind of limited to a spaceship. It's not a civilization that is surviving on UBI. Maria, you had your hand up. Yes, Elizabeth, you have
just very quickly, if you think about government-funded sustainable eco housing solutions, so you can apply for your grant and you get your insulation done and all the rest of it. And there are other things like this. When the pandemic hit in the UK, you were given eating out money, but you had to, you're very restricted in where you spend your tokens, where you have to use certain organizations for your insulation, even though they're giving you the grants. I mean, will it be like that? Is this another way to remove choice, to erode decision making? Call it trust, and it's actually control. Sorry.
Very interesting points. Nina, I see a hand up, but I don't see you yet. Let's see if yeah.
I was about to leave and then I had things to say. I think sometimes we run too fast. Sometimes we look too far ahead in future. I mean, I still believe Sweden has a strong system in place in that regard, comparing to US, for instance, where you end up on the street within a month. So I think, let's say, from a Swedish perspective, where you have social security and different layers, starting there and just recognizing that there is a big, unemployment right now, and using existing frameworks, but incorporating it into AI. I'm not an expert in this, but I'm sure there are a lot of experts out there. How do you extend the existing tax systems so that companies who are replacing people with AI or pay some kind of fee back to the government so that they don't just empty their resources in the coming 3 years? I don't think we need to like speculate 2030. I still think there are strong methods and processes in place. It's more like, okay, let's be slightly innovative around those and start where we are and secure for the 3 coming years, and then we figure it out. I don't think we need to think sci-fi here.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting points. I think it's
And
also
I'm
about.
out. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting point. Like, how do we think about it? I think, and you mentioned the word consumer somewhere. Like, consumers exist and their rights exist because we are still paying for things from out of our pockets of the money we earned. So, money we earned and paying puts us in control in a position to command a level of service from companies and a level of service for people we put in government because they are accountable. Eventually, democracy is a tool for accountability, the top person to be accountable to the bottom person here who voted that person in. So that's an accountability mechanism. When you do a universal basic income, so that's very personal perspective. That is, you become a recipient. You're no longer a consumer or a value creator. You are a value receiver. So, as a value receiver, what happens to your role of commanding or driving the society? And if eventually the entire human civilization is a value receiver, what's the role? But that's a point of reflection. Yes, Maria.
Thanks. I mean, I think like universal basic income is a beautiful idea, but I think, you know, what we're seeing is very, very far away from that. And I mean, ultimately, like I see the jobs that are kind of being created in the near future, these are the jobs that where a human teaches the machine do their job, you know. So, and I mean, I also hear a lot of, you know, podcast discussions about like, oh, how we'll all do, like we'll lose the meaning if we don't have to work anymore. I mean, again, I think like I wish this would be the problems that we'll be solving, but I think you know, there are many others that will come first. And I mean, we are still very much like motivated as humans, you know, by tribe, like power, tribe, and I mean, these are what our like political systems build on. And yeah, so I think it like requires complete rethinking, and I don't know what should happen or like in a realistic world for this to actually happen.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Maria. We have some like very interesting comments here. One problem seems to be the equation of work with purpose. Yeah, that's also good. So I'm just picking it up from someone on chat. One problem seems to be the equation of work with purpose. Okay. Yes, Sabrina.
Something important. If you want to have like AI is going to work in like with the politician on this, we should understand that we need to educate them too. They need to use the tools. I think we need to talk to the person that are like, okay, we are going to use AI. We are going to be the first in our country to have be these tools, but also they need to understand it. So that is important. We are that is working with AI or working with tech. We need to be where there are the person that are saying that we are going to be the first country to use it, be the best. So they need to be like, okay, come to us and explain how it works, because they cannot only just saying in that, because they need to understand that we need to show them how to use it. And that's something important, I think.
Yeah, Exactly, exactly. We also have a few comments coming on chat. What happens to the value of anything when price to produce it has gone to near zero? How much UBI do you really need then? Very interesting. So, I don't know. We can put some reflection here. We have Paul joining in. Let's see if we can hear him. Yes, Paul.
Hi,
We
Naimol.
don't see you yet.
I think you've blocked my video. I don't take it personally, though. Don't worry.
Okay, how can that happen?
Oh, here we go. Start my video. Here we go. I'm
Okay.
back. Yeah, I just wanted to say I think UBI and UHI is an idealistic frame. I really can't see that that's going to be the way this resolves. I think the economy is always economic systems, if you look at it ethnographically, anthropologically, historically, they've always evolved as the sort of mode of production. Exchange mechanisms have changed, and in a sense we're applying the old thinking to a phase shift. So the paradigm shifts, and we're saying, like, it's almost like when horses were replaced by vehicles, somebody asking, oh, what's going to happen to all the people who shovel the poo? What's going to happen to all the people who make the leather, who do the horseshoes, etc., etc. It wasn't that all of those people just became redundant. And even if it happened in the micro sense, what happens now? You go to a city. I'm a London native. You have to filter that this was a city designed for horses, and you can't see it anymore because it's been overlain. And I think exactly the same thing will happen when it comes to this new phase shift. And the other aspect is, if you look at the shadow, if you look at the darkness of humanity, there is no precedent where those in power and with wealth distribute it of their own free will. What you get instead is a consolidation of power and wealth and control over the broader populace. And that's what we need to guard against, in my view.
No, that's really important. You talked about the power side, and then you talked also about, because I was discussing in the start that there is a springboard. You are on a springboard, and then technology comes. This is too large a springboard. We cannot see on the other side or on the top, like what the sky looks like. It is green, black, white. We can.
I think it's almost like an interdimensional springboard.
Exactly.
You're not springing higher in one plane. You kind of disappear into an alternate paradigm, and this is the point. But we take our nature with us. We take our nervous system and we take the ecosystem with us into that phase shift.
What will access to a technology that can bring a lot of power further amplify you? How do you control your output? How do you control your ability to think? How do you take a pause?
It's really difficult. What I've developed, the RAA model, it's a reciprocal integration model based on a model of polymathic cognitive architecture. So it started with my own experience, then I built the model, then I'm pushing it out to see if it holds. It does hold. It's natural that the system will struggle to stabilize, because it's just, people will call it overwhelm, overload. It's inevitable that will happen. So that it requires an extra effort to stabilize, which is why I built the stabilization protocol. But I've just got some notes here. So the strengths under optimal conditions are fast learning in unfamiliar domains, original integrative thinking, strategic problem solving in wicked environments. But failure under load looks like association outruns integration, fragmentation and cognitive overload, oscillation, distraction, and novelty chasing. So again, I've developed the system. But you can take a horse to water. Whether or not the horse drinks is entirely up to the horse. because more information requires more cognitive load, which puts us at high risk of burnout, bore-out, psychosis, basically just losing our sanity. And that's happening. It's happening, which is why I'm so passionate that if my structures can work for the highest capacity minds under load, it will work for neurodiverse people. It'll work for neurotypical people. It will work for anybody that wants to stabilize in a world that is inherently unstable.
Very interesting points. And I think that's a good thought to maybe carry forward in our discussions, in our next events. A big thanks to you, Elizabeth, and to Maria. Thank you for joining us today. This has been great. And to all the previous panelists who were here, and to our partners who have been in this. So, Hani, thank you so much for being here. Paul, Sabrina,
very
a
kind.
big, massive goodbye. It's a sunny Stockholm.
Indeed it
noontime.
is. And
So,
we have to also thank the team behind the scenes. We have Hannibal.
yeah. So Hani Beloch and
Backstage.
Julia has been here, and Sheila has been involved in this. So big thanks to everybody involved in this. Hani Halilovic, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you,
And to all our
Naimul.
panelists.
Excellent
Thank you.
work. All the panelists as well, and in chat. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.